Hello, welcome to the Knits and Things podcast. I'm Heather. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Heather219, and you can find me on my YouTube channel, which is under Heather V. That's where you can find all of the episodes for the podcast. You can also find them on my WordPress blog, which is knits-n-things.wordpress.com. So all of the show notes and everything are on the blog. I also started with the last episode loading the show notes with links and everything right on the Ravelry group that I created with the same name, Knits and Things Podcast. So you can find a Knits and Things Podcast group if you do a search, and all of the show notes will be there as well so that you can find links to everything that I talk about. So today's segments are going to be Thing 1, Fox and Socks, Thing 2, Gertrude McFly, and there's a lot to talk about in Oh, the Things You Can Think. School started, so I feel like I'm doing more thinking about knitting than actual knitting. But that's the way teacher life goes. So let's go ahead into the show. Thing 1, I haven't been working on too much. Actually, my Dahlia cardigan is going along a lot better than the first side. I have attached everything. I'm on to the second side. So once I did the back, I started with the right side. And now I'm on to the left side. And the left side seems to be coming along much more quickly. So again, when I hold it up, you'll see the back, which is the green section. The longer purple section here is the right side. The shorter purple section is the left side. And I think, according to the way it felt to me like this right side took forever, but it does not feel like the left side is taking quite as long. It's probably just a figment of my imagination because I'm sure it takes just as long. It's the same measurements and same number of stitches, but I feel like it's coming along a little bit more quickly. I can see progress a little bit faster, I feel like. So I think I'm just about halfway done. So there's still quite a lot of stockinette to do on fingering weight yarn with size 4 needles, but I'm really happy with it. So I'm excited to think that I'm actually going to get done in the time frame for the knit along. I'm doing this one as part of the Yarniacs podcast Fall Colors Knit Along because the two colors match with their the Pantone colors of fall, the fall color palette, which the purple falls in with the acai and the green falls in with, last time I think I mentioned that it was emerald. The emerald is the lighter green. There's a different green that's the deeper green, and it falls in with that. So the green and the purple really match up well with the Pantone colors of fall. So who knew I was so fashionable? So that is my Dahlia cardigan, and Dahlia was a pattern from fall 2011 Interweave Knits by Heather Zapetti, if you wanted to do a search on it. And I'm sorry I'm trying one more location I'm trying for recording, which is the little love seat in my parents' living room. And the springs are horrible on it. It's very squeaky, so I'm trying not to move around too much. But if you hear a bunch of squeaking, it's not because I'm so large, it's because the couch is so cheap. Alright, so that was the Dahlia cardigan. The other thing that I've been working on is the traveling sock. Of course, that's going to wait for Fox and Socks, but I've actually been wanting to knit on my pucker, so I thought I would show it to you. I knit on it a little bit today. I actually did about 5 stitches while I was in the waiting room at the doctor's office. The doctor's office, it's a really nice office. It's very silly the reason that I need to go there. But they make up for it completely because they have wonderful customer service. I've only ever once had an issue with one receptionist, and it was only over the phone. Every time you're there in person, they're the most wonderful, friendly people. And the doctor ain't bad to look at, so darn, I have to go to the doctor. It's nothing serious at all, and it's really actually very silly why I need to go. And it's actually, you'll laugh at this, it's a urologist office, so when I'm there, I'm like the youngest person by about 30 years, and everybody else is men. It's all men, and maybe one little old lady, and then there's me. It's really funny. But yeah, the doctor's quite good looking, and his staff is wonderful. And my problem is really minor and annoying, but nothing that I even have to worry about in my day-to-day life, so who cares. So before I could even knit a whole row, I knit about 5 stitches, and they came to get me. So as retaliation, when I was done with my doctor's appointment, I went to Starbucks, and I sat and I knit about 10 rows. So this is my pucker. It's just, again, fingering weight, yarn, stockinette stitch, size 4 needles. It's, I mean, it's going to be beautiful when it's done, but I really have, I had started working on the Dahlia cardigan, trying to get that done in the time frame with the knit along, but I have the feeling that I'm going to want to wear this sweater. Oh, and that's right, the picture did not show up on this pattern. Because it's such a lightweight sweater. I'll show you the schematic and I'll cover up most of the numbers. How about that? It's a really lightweight, fingering weight sweater, A-line shape. It's got some gathers across the bust, 3/4 length sleeves, and it's going to be a really nice, versatile sweater. I think I'm going to be able to wear it actually in my classroom a lot because it will either be too hot or too cold in there. And with this being so lightweight, and in a sock yarn that has some nylon in it, I think it's going to be a good, comfortable temperature to wear this a lot in my classroom. I think I'll be wearing it. I could wear it with khakis during the week. I could definitely wear it on Fridays when we can wear jeans. And so I have the feeling that I'm going to want to wear it soon. So it's been kind of in the back of my mind, and I've wanted to knit on it a little more. So I took this with me today instead of the Dahlia cardigan. And it's really pretty. I've done just one little modification, which is that I'm going to do a folded hem. So if you can see, it's supposed to have just there's some sort of ribbing. I can't remember exactly, and I probably shouldn't say anyway because it's a pay-for pattern. But instead of doing the ribbing for just that little bit, I decided to do the folded hem. So I knit, I think, 5 rows, did my purl row, knit another 5 rows, actually knit 5 rows, purl row, knit another 5 rows, and then I tacked them together as I went along because I hate sewing in afterwards. So if you do it as you're going along, you can pick up the stitch underneath here along with the stitch that you're currently knitting on your needle, and you can pick it up as you go along, and then you don't have to sew it in at the end. And I really like that kind of folded edge. I like a folded hem anyway. So I'll probably do it on the sleeves, and possibly I'll try it on the neckline. I don't know. I was listening to to Amy from Stockinette Zombies talk about her neckline and how it was really too wide on her shoulders, and I'm wondering if I'll have the same problem because we seem to be using a very similar yarn. So I'm looking, I'm keeping that in mind as I get further and further into the cardigan, that I might have to do some more modifications, and maybe a folded hem might help it to stay in place, especially if I do some extra decreases like Megan said that she did on hers. So we'll see, but hopefully towards the end of September that you'll see the end of both of those sweaters, and I'll pick back up my Water's Edge cardigan. All right, so on to so for Fox and Socks, I finished one traveling sock and sent it on its way. I have another one that I'm working on. This is the one that I always forget everybody's first name because we all have the Ravelry names. This is Nicole. Nicole's username is N Westman or NW Esman. And she wanted pink or bright or neon, right? And so I came up with, this was her sock when it came to me, because this one I haven't started yet. I haven't started on the second one. So this was the sock as it came to me, her toe, first person, second person. I liked this stitch pattern. I liked all the extra loops or the extra straight parts for the stitches. And so I took that same idea and I put some neon green with it. And I'm doing, I'll tell you the name of the pattern, and I'm going to show you the book that I'm using too, because it's a really nice little kind of, even a portable stitch pattern or stitch book, stitch dictionary to use and to have with you. So this is called the Slip Stitch Trellis, and this pattern comes from the Field Guide to Knitting, which is really neat. So I think that I really like how the straight lines for the trellis stitch match up with this. And I hope she likes the neon green. I think it makes it really wild. And if you're thinking that this is the most ugly sock you've ever seen, I would have agreed with you before I started making them, but as you make them, it kind of turns into just this nice little sampler type item. So I don't know. I used to do cross stitch a lot, and the round robin idea for cross stitch or quilting is just, I just really like the idea of the scrappy sampling type nature of it. So it is kind of like, it's like the ugliest, most lovable sock you'd ever want to have, right? So there's the traveling sock that I'm working on now. And back to the Field Guide to Knitting. This book is really fun. It's very thick. This gray section in here, there's a picture of all of the stitches knit up, and it's sectioned off into knit and purl stitches in part of it. And then the section behind that is, I believe, lace. No, cables. It goes on to cables after that. So there's a bunch of cables, every different kind of cable you could want, all different kinds of cables. It goes after the cable section, it goes into open work and lace, which is where I found this pattern. Actually, it must have been one of the first ones. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's in the knit and purl stitches for the lattice work. The one I did just before this was an open work lace work pattern. Okay, so there's a bunch of different lace, all different types of lace. And then at the very end are edgings. And so I use this a lot when I want to just kind of make up things. It's got a whole little section of edgings. I took one stitch pattern from the front where it was the knits and purls, and I put it together with an edging and made up a scarf that I did for my cousin. Actually, it had that edging on it right there. So I really like this to go to just find something when you know kind of the look that you hope for your garment to have or your item to have, and then you can go in and find what you're looking for. I find it it's very easy when you look at this, the pictures, when you have a new sock that arrives. I like going through and looking at the stitch patterns and thinking about which pattern would match up best with what's been done just before me. So I've been going to this a lot. I've been going to this and to the old Harmony guides that my mom has in her stash. Okay, so that's my next traveling sock. That and one little boo-boo are all that I've been working on for socks. Again, I've been working on Dahlia a lot, which is probably why it seems like it's going so fast. So the other thing that I've been working on in Fox and Socks, I listen to Knitting Samurai Plus One a lot. I love her podcast. I love seeing her son. And I like her style of just kind of sharing with everybody and making everybody, I feel like when I watch her that she's like one of my knitting friends from my knitting group, and she's just telling me about what she knit, because that's what you do, right? You share your knitting. So she has her podiversary or anniversary for her podcast is coming up. And she had this knit-along that she was starting, and there's a special colorway that's being done up from, I'm going to mess up, Inspiration Dye Works. And it's gorgeous colors. It's pink, or not pink, it's purple and teal and blue, which are the same colors that she uses on her little logo, her little motif for her podcast. And I thought it was really pretty. I think it's great colors to use for my sister. Those are the same colors that my sister really likes. So I thought, oh, I'll do that knit along and get my sister's Christmas present out of the way at the same time. No problem. So I ordered the yarn. The yarn came in. I'm waiting for September 1st, because September 1st is the knit along date. That's when we cast on. And just like a dutiful podcast listener, I cast on for a pair of skew socks with the yarn. So here's my sock toe started. And you can barely tell that it's a skew sock. It's a toe-up sock, but skew is the one that I did with the red and gray yarn from a while ago. So you can see it now. I've stopped increasing here, but I'm still increasing over here, but just barely. I think by like maybe 4 increases. And I've done one full repeat, purple to blue to teal, and I'm back to the purple again. And I did all this on September 1st. I didn't knit on my Dahlia cardigan. I knit on this because it was September 1st and I was supposed to cast on. So I did that while I was watching TV or whatever, and then I popped on Ravelry and I was checking around, and I thought, oh, let me go see if anybody else has started and if anybody else has posted. And this is the yarn, by the way. Inspiration Dye Works. I got the Fluffy Plus base, which is very nice and squishy. So I pop on Ravelry to check it out, see who else is knitting what, and I look around, and the start date is not till September 15th. So I vowed and pledged not to knit another stitch until September 16th as my punishment for being an airhead. And then she posted that she would like to see what it looks like. So, Steph, here's the sock. And if you're watching, you can see it. And if you're not watching, I might make you wait. Maybe. I don't know. So, there's the sock. So, as you can tell, I'm very excited to get this done. I think it's going to be a great Christmas present for my sister. My family started a couple years ago that, actually last year was the very first year. We talked about it a couple years, and then everybody kept doing stuff. And we finally said last year, adults only get stockings. They don't get anything else. Adults get stockings, period, end of story. That's all there is to it. And last year we finally did it for real. So we're going to continue on again, and socks fit in a stocking very nicely. So there's my sister's Christmas gift all done. So I think that's going to work out well. I really like the colors. I think those are exactly my sister's colors. I would, I'd love to participate in a knit along with Steph. Last time I did, I won prizes. And there it is. So I feel silly for casting on too early, but there you go. I was excited. I had it in mind. It was, you ever get that feeling when a plan comes together and you just know that a project is going to work out right and that you should go with it? Well, that's kind of the way I felt with that. So that's okay. So Gertrude McFly, and it's been a while since I've had a Gertrude McFly. I think it was just only my very first episode. So Gertrude McFly is the poor little bird who nothing goes right for. She wants to be like Lala-Lee-Loo and show off all her pretty stuff, but she didn't have any pretty stuff. So she's just a plain old bird. So my Gertrude McFly this time is my pucker pullover that I finished, I think, for my second episode. And it's the edging, just like I thought. So I knitted this cardigan. I knitted this pullover, the pucker pullover by Nora Gone, out of some Plymouth Yarns grass. So it's a mix of materials. It's hemp and cotton and nylon, I want to say. And it was a very nice yarn. I started running short though, and I knew that I was not going to have enough for the edging. Matter of fact, I had just I think barely a yard left of the grass, of the main blue color. So I went through my stash and I found this orange, and I thought, oh, that orange is going to be great. That'll look really well with it. And as I was working with the orange yarn is, oh, I'm not going to remember the name, but it was made out of corn. I have some other yarn that's the same brand, and it's made out of soy. And I want to say there's another one. So it's more of a flashy fashion type yarn. It's not a workhorse yarn. And as I was working with it, I did notice that it broke in a couple places. So, and it's been in my stash for a while, so I don't know if that's the reason or if it was flawed from the start and corn yarn is not that strong. But I know when I bought the yarn, the person from the booth that I got it from, because it was from Stitches, and it's been years that I've been to Stitches since the last time they were in Baltimore. So if you go to Stitches East, and they've been in Connecticut for several years now. So the last time I bought it was even if it was the last Stitches, I think that was probably 5 years ago. Probably, because I don't remember going there, except maybe my first 2 years teaching at the school where I am now, and I've been there for 8 years. So they marketed it as a beautiful yarn, a wonderful yarn to use, and you could wash it and dry it and nothing would happen to it. It was great for baby garments because it was so tough. But that's not what I see, because as I was working with it, it was breaking, and I wore this to school once at the before school, in all the before school meetings and setting up classrooms and everything. And when I got home, when I went to the restroom one time and I was looking in the mirror, I noticed at the neckline right here that it was breaking. So I just said, oh, well, I hope it doesn't unravel all completely and I don't wind up with, my shirt looking like it's coming apart during the day. But then as I was leaving school that day, I was talking with my boss, and she noticed. She says, "Oh my goodness, your sweater's coming apart," at the hemline as well. So, and I don't even know if I see the break on that one, so it must have just been one stitch that popped, and then it all just started unraveling. So, I have to do my edging over. Boo to having to do edgings over. So that's, but like I said, my classroom is hot, hot and cold and hot and cold. So I'm sure once I finally get the edging on, I'll still be able to wear this again. But, and it's going to be a good fall sweater, because even if it does get a little bit cool, it's a little sheer, and I'm not sure about the fabric on my skin, directly on my skin, so I still wear a little camisole underneath it. So it needs to be a little bit cooler to be able to wear it anyway, so I think I'll still get use out of it. So that was Gertrude McFly. And on to Oh, the Things You Can Think. So for Oh, the Things You Can Think, of course, that's what I do. That's what I'm going to do when I talk about things that I'm planning or things that are upcoming for knitting. And I have lots of things that I'm planning. I found out this year that just before school, I found out that my immediate coworker, the other first grade teacher at my school, is expecting again. And she is due in February, so I already had planned on making some baby items for her. And I'll probably actually do a dress, a little A-line type dress for her current daughter, who is, I think she is like 10 months old maybe. And then I'll knit a blanket for the new baby that's due in February. But then I also found out that a former coworker who had to switch schools is expecting her first baby, and she's also due in February. So my plan is, I guess, when Christmas knitting is over, it's now baby blanket knitting. And I want to really look into, I've seen one pattern that's, I believe, a pay-for pattern that the two Knitlit chicks were talking about, that's like a wubby type blanket where it's got the little animal head on the corner and then the rest of it is the blanket. So it's more of a snuggle toy rather than a blanket that's going to cover. So I'm thinking about doing that. I might do one for one friend and one for the other friend, so that I'm not knitting two of the same blankets or two big blankets. Although when I do baby blankets, I only do small blankets. What I found most useful when my son was small and I was carrying him around in a car seat, especially in February when they're definitely in that little car seat that you carry around all the time, is to have a blanket that would just cover the car seat. And that way, if it was cold and the baby was sleeping and you didn't want to wake the baby up by putting a hat back on its head, you could just cover the car seat with the blanket, and then they would be kept warm. So I usually do a car seat sized blanket when I knit blankets for baby blankets for people, because that's what I found to be most useful. And I want for people to use what I give them. So I like to knit things that I found useful as well. So baby blankets are on the way. I also have the knit-alongs coming up. Again, the Knitting Samurai knit-along is with the self-striping yarn that you order from Inspiration Dye Works, and you can do whatever you want with that. I chose to do a pair of the skew socks, which are it's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's actually from an old episode of Knitty. Knitty.com is an online knitting magazine where all the patterns are free, and they're wonderful and lovely, and all different skill levels and all different types of designers and all different types of patterns. So you should check them out. But there's also this podcaster throwdown idea from the Naughty Girls, where they're challenging people to ask for contributions to Halos of Hope. So I've never done this before. I actually had been thinking about one, so I'm going to talk about two different things that I would like to participate in, and I would like to have people participate in and help me with as well. So I would like to knit hats for Halos of Hope. I think Halos of Hope is a wonderful charity that is very deserving of our attention as knitters. I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't know somebody affected by cancer, either a friend of theirs, themselves, a family member, or a friend or family member who had someone go through cancer treatments and hair loss, and how something so small as a knitted hat could help them to, feel better about their day, or feel better about themselves, or, feel better about their treatments, knowing that someone out there is thinking of them. So for Halos of Hope, there is halosofhope.com is the website, and there are tons of patterns on the website, tons of ways to participate on the website. But there are also people on Ravelry, from what I'm hearing from different podcasts that I've been listening to just today in the car on the way back and forth from knitting for doctor's appointments, that there are designers on Ravelry that are giving discounts for hats. So whatever hat you can knit generally will fit in the pattern, but check out the Halos of Hope website because they do have requirements. I know there are things like I plan on using a couple of my own stash yarns. I have a ton of this Debbie Bliss Cafe, and this actually has no wool content in it, because I know that one of the things for Halos of Hope is if you have wool content in your yarn, that's fine, but it needs to be marked as such because some people do have sensitivities or allergies to the different wools and lanolins and things, and especially if you have no hair on your head, or if you're, losing your hair, or if you're going through treatment and have, medicine coursing through your system, you might, your sensitivities are going to be different, and your skin might be more sensitive than normal. So I plan on knitting at least one out of this orangey red Debbie Bliss Cafe, and at least one out of this Debbie Bliss Rialto, which this does have wool in it, but it's a very soft, it's 100% merino, and it's superwash as well, so it's machine washable, which is, I think, another requirement that they would like. Again, you'd have to check out the halosofhope.com website for the exact requirements. I just looked into it myself once I heard and saw the challenge on the podcasters group on Ravelry. So Halos of Hope is starting now, but the deadline for it is not until February. So, work it in with your gift knitting, Christmas knitting, extra knitting, whatever you would like. And if you would like, I will be sending some in myself. I will probably send them directly to Pearlescence Yarns because they're a major contributor. They're like a drop-off point. So I will probably send mine directly to Pearlescence Yarns. If you would like to send them through me for us as a podcast, which I don't think that I have anywhere near as many people looking at my podcast as people like the Naughty Girls or the Knitmore Girls and other people that are participating. So I'm not going to join in any kind of challenge or whatever. If there's another podcaster out there that wants to join with me and says, hey, send me yours, send me what you get through my way and we'll put them together, wonderful. Please contact me, private message or on the group, and we can do that. But if you would like to send them through me so that they get there, feel free, and I will set up and let you know how to get in contact with me, or you can send me a private message, a PM on Ravelry, and we can work that out. Because the deadline isn't until February, so there's plenty of stuff. If you do want to send them through me, though, and we set up something in the group, then I'm willing to set up with prizes. So if you want that, if you think that would be a good idea, please let me know in the group. You can either make a comment on YouTube, or if you're on Ravelry already, which hopefully you are. If you're not, it's free, and you should be. Then make a comment in the group. I'll start a new thread for Halos of Hope. And if you would like to participate, then we can set up a contest thread as well. And I will give out a skein of yarn either from my stash, probably from my sock stash because that's where I have all the extra stuff, or from one of my hand spun skeins. And so I'll have to show you guys a picture of that either in the group or during the next episode. One prize for every 25 hats that get donated, since I know I don't have all that much traffic coming through. And then today I also heard of, trying to make sure on my notes that I've gotten everything. Oh, and the hat for Halos of Hope, the hat that I really like that I'm going to try first, I think with the pink yarn, is called the Guinan, Guinan. It's a free pattern that I linked to. It's a free Ravelry pattern, but I found the link on the Halos of Hope website. So check that out. And it's a pattern by Kim K. And it's really cute. It's kind of a slouchy beret that's kind of got the ridges to it. So it's a stockinette, reverse stockinette, stockinette, reverse stockinette pattern, so that it gives kind of like the little ridges to it. And it's got a ribbing at the head and then the slouch to it. So you can wear it as a straight beret, or you can wear it as a slouchy beret, depending on how you wear it. And I think that would be kind of cute and stylish and make somebody kind of perk up a little bit for the day, hopefully. So that's Halos of Hope. Then I heard today, and I just got the info very briefly, that the Knitmore girls are going to have a Bame along. So it's for Martina Baines patterns, and I have at least 3 of her patterns in my queue that I bought recently because she had a pattern special where I think she had, I want to say it was 30% off. And I bought, when you bought 3 or more patterns, and I think I bought 4 patterns that day. So I definitely have patterns, and I know they specifically mentioned Lefty as one, which a lot of her patterns are very similar. Hitchhiker, Wingspan, Brickless. Well, Brickless wasn't the same sort. And then there's one called Lefty. And they all, I think, have a very similar type construction. And so if when they do that, I'll be casting on Lefty. I hope that it's at a good time for me knitting-wise, because when I do Lefty, it's going to be for me, not a gift. So I hope that works out. So those are all of the knit-alongs that I plan on doing. Baby blankets, the knit-along for Knitting Samurai, the Halos of Hope, which is kind of a knit-along, kind of a challenge, and the first contest that I will do. And then I wanted to talk about another I'm thinking of another contest when I was starting to think of different things that I could do on my own podcast because I love the contests on podcasts. I think that's, it's really great and exciting, and it keeps you interested and keeps you coming back and looking to see what's going on. But, the one near and dear to my heart is going to be for diabetes. And so November is National Diabetes Awareness Month. And so I'm cooking up something for a knit-along there. It's probably going to be kind of knit whatever you want. The color for diabetes awareness is blue. I know you see a lot of things that when it's through American Diabetes Association, it's red. But American Diabetes Association is kind of for both types of diabetes, and I've been talking a lot about the fact that there are 2 types of diabetes, and so the symbol for type 1 diabetes is actually a continuous circle, like a never-ending circle is what I call it, and it's a pale blue. It's kind of like a periwinkle blue color. So I was thinking that maybe it would be just something with kind of a color and a blue, and that as you're knitting, when someone comments on your knitting, you would share and tell them what it's for, and ask them if they knew that there were 2 types of diabetes. So I'm thinking about something like that, and kind of having it more along the lines of a participation education type thing, where you share opportunities that you've had to talk about diabetes in general with people. And just kind of, putting that out there and asking people if they knew that there were 2 types of diabetes and what the differences were, and then kind of commenting back and sharing with what you find people say and the conversations that arise from just sharing that little bit of information, that there are actually 2 types of diabetes, a type 1 and a type 2, and, the differences between them, and just to see how much people know, and to kind of spread awareness, and to maybe learn about it and read up on it yourself if you didn't know. I know when my son was diagnosed, I was very confused, and I didn't understand how he could have diabetes when he's, such a healthy, active kid, and how could this happen, and, oh, what have I done to my kid, and, then to come to the realization that it wasn't anything we did, it wasn't anything we could have prevented, it wasn't anything to do with how much he ate or didn't eat, because he's actually is a pretty healthy eater. And, just kind of the guilt and frustration and confusion that went on when my son was diagnosed, and just kind of the continuing struggle with what we deal with when people learn that he has diabetes. So that's kind of different things I have in mind. There will be prizes. It'll be a knit along, but I'm thinking of how to make it more educational. So I'll get the final details a little bit closer. It's only September, so I'll get the final details a little bit closer. Maybe middle of October I'll set up the final guidelines so people can start thinking about what they might want to do, and getting themselves geared up and ready. And so the last thing I want to talk about is something else that I'm planning on knitting. And I looked, and I can't find my copy of the book. I think it's upstairs next to my bed, but there's like 10 books upstairs next to my bed, because that's where I do a lot of my reading. So the other day I was in Joann's for teacher stuff before school starts, and of course, I always have to go back and check out the yarn just to see what's on sale. Sometimes it's baby stuff, sometimes it's sock yarn, sometimes it's something I want to get, sometimes not. So I have never tried this yarn before, but it feels very squishy. It's called Premier Yarns Eversoft, and I consider myself a teeny tiny bit of a yarn snob, so I really, it's all acrylic, and the only reason I got it is for the reason that I'm about to tell you, which is I want to knit my cute little nephew a toy from the Topsy Turvy Inside Out Knitted Toys. Did I get that title right? I hope so. Susan B. Anderson. I purchased the book at my local yarn store, at one of my local yarn stores, this summer, and I want to knit the little dog in a doghouse pattern for my nephew. I think it would be really cute for him to have. I can just imagine him, you know, as he starts getting more mobile and talking and everything, and talking about playing with his doggy and woofing at me, and I just think it's going to be really cute. So when I was at Joann's the other day, these skeins were like $1.20 each. I couldn't pass it up because I know that it's going to a kid who's going to put it in his mouth and slobber all over it and drool all over it and hug all on it, and it's going to wind up underneath the couch, and it's probably going to wind up as a dog toy every once in a while its own self, because his dog Max is going to tear it up. If not, you know, Max has already eaten some of my knitting. So these colors I thought would be great for the dog in a doghouse. I know there's a white doghouse with a black roof or a dark brown roof. So I have white and I have black at $1.20. I just grabbed the colors that I thought I would need. There's a dark brown, there's a rusty brown, and there's even a red, because I think when you make the dog, I think he's got a red tongue hanging out of his mouth. So all of these colors should, I would think, make a cute little stuffy toy for the cutest nephew ever. So if you're on, if you're one of my friends on Instagram, you see pictures of him all the time, because he's like my favorite little subject right now. He's very cute, and I have to really watch because my son gets very jealous. So I have to really watch. But actually yesterday was a Jewish holiday for my county, so we all got off even though it was a Jewish holiday, and we don't all celebrate it. So we were all Jewish yesterday, so I actually got to spend the whole day with my nephew. And my son and I took him to the park, and we had planned on taking him with us in his jogging stroller and running around the track with him, because my son and I have been practicing working up to a 5K run together. But his jogging stroller wouldn't fit in my cute little Beetle. Oh well. So we took the little umbrella stroller and walked, and he loved it. My nephew had a blast. My son had a blast being, you know, the big cousin, and we all had a good day. So that's it for me for knitting today. I hope you have a great day. I hope your knitting is entertaining you and keeping you busy and not frustrating you and turning into Gertrude McFly. So until next time, enjoy your knitting. Thanks for watching. Bye.